Welcome to Sounds Like Portraits. I'm Philippe Ungar. This is a podcast with creative humans. In this episode, you'll hear Alain Bernard, President and CEO of Richemont, North America. I sat with Alain in his big office on Fifth Avenue, full of books and art. He told me that luxury is about tradition, time, and excellence. But technology is now reshaping it. Luxury has to be faster in adapting its business models to new technology, where speed is as crucial as excellence. So, what becomes creativity behind those challenges? It's time to listen to him. But before, he told me what he tried to do all his life.
All my life, I have always tried to live a full life and make sure that everything I do is useful, is fruitful, and I do it with a little bit of fun.
Fulfillment, that would be the thread in your whole life until that day?
I would say building something which makes sense for my entourage and for me. Whatever the entourage, I mean from a family to a company, that's definitely been the whole thread, building.
You often say you don't manage your career. What does it mean to you?
I don't know if it's the case for everyone. I know that I've never managed my career. It just happened this way. I've never made any plan. It's been a matter of opportunities and, great people I have met along the way. I had no plan from the beginning. I didn't know when I was 15, when I was 18, when I was 20. Even further than that, I had no clue of what I wanted to do. I just followed some kind of natural flow and came to one job. My first job, actually, I was a consultant, which was like the most generalist job I could take because I didn't know what to do. So I figured out that was the best way to find out. And then I happened to meet the world of luxury by total accident. Actually, it was a job offer, which I read, I liked. I applied and I got the job. It was in the luxury industry and it was actually at Cartier. It was 21 years ago. It was a complete good accident.
Before entering the luxury industry, how did you see it?
That's a great question, because I remember I had a kind of a vision which was somewhere between blur and negative. Basically what I was seeing is something that was not particularly appealing to me, which was very superficial. I was seeing, the glossy papers of magazines, good looking, but not at all my stuff. That's the only image that I had from this industry, which was definitely very incomplete. But when I had this opportunity to enter that world, I actually had the opportunity to meet a few people, to give a few phone calls, and to actually start to understand that behind those glossy papers and these magazines and these nice images and these superficial type of things, there was actually incredible passion, a large variety of jobs, of work, of creativity, from the women and men who design, who craft, who have the passion all the way till selling and servicing the client. And that became very appealing to me. What I loved as well, which I didn't completely, but I was very, I guess, a little bit immature there, was this great mix or balance between the creativity part and the logical part. Whatever you do, you need to have the sensitivity for, even if you don't create yourself a product, even if you don't know how to draw, even if you don't know how to craft, you need to have some sensitivity, some sensibility about some kind of art and culture. You need to have some emotional parts in you that vibrates when you see, incredible brand identity and when you touch and wear some products on one side. But on the other side, it's a business, it's an industry, it's big amounts, and it's also a search for excellence in everything we do. And you need to have that left brain part of you, which makes things as good, meaningful, and efficient as possible.
How did technology change the luxury experience?
That's a great question. The luxury, when you think of the world of luxury experience, it's naturally not a world of technology, or at least what's visible by the client is not supposed to be technological. What, as a client, you see is a piece of creation, product, and a human relation a relation with a human being who serves you the best way possible. And you have an environment, and you are immersed into a universe. That's the luxury experience. And thanks to this, you have an emotion that takes you in this universe that makes you desire and ultimately acquire and collect that particular piece. Technology is not supposed to be there. Doesn't mean that technology had never been in the luxury world. There has been some technology for centuries. I see for ourselves. Richemont is a leader in watchmaking and jewelry, for instance. In the world of watchmaking, technology has been at the core of everything since the first watches were created. What's changing now is that the technology is adding some incredible elements between the brand and the client. So what's changing now, and that's true for luxury, but that's true for the whole brand world, that's true for the whole consumption world, right? The way we experience brands, the way we are informed, the way we get into a relation, the way we educate ourselves on brands, the way we interact physically or remotely with brands is changing completely because digital components have come, because e-commerce have come, because all the websites and apps and etc. have emerged 20 years ago, 10 years ago. And so, yes, the luxury experience is changing.
Beyond the product, it's a relationship to the brand itself.
Yes, absolutely. In the past, the work of brand people, of marketers, was a little bit pretty simple. You had to work on your brand, interesting, meaningful messages, interesting ways to convey them, push those messages, invest massively in some media and events, etc. And, kind of one-way communication and bet for clients to come in your store and make some business. Very simple in a way. Obviously, it has completely changed. The client has taken power. The client, in his interaction with the brand, is actually influencing the brand to be different, is sometimes educating herself or himself, the people from the brand, is defining herself or himself the rules of the game, the way they want to interact, the message that they want to see, the way they want to buy, the way they want to be delivered. So the client is dictating the rules now of the way it works.
You're thinking especially about millennials, I guess.
Not only, the millennial question is always like the multi-billion, zillion dollars question, because obviously they are the clients a little bit of today and definitely of tomorrow. My belief here, my observation is that in a way we are all millennials, whatever the generation, because the way we are all interacting with our favorite brands has changed over the last, 10 years. Our generation, our kids' generation, our parent generations. I see my mom, the way she consumes, the way she buys stuff. She goes on the internet and buys. She interacts on her favorite apps and social networks very differently from 10 years ago. She is a millennial in a way. What's also very characteristic of millennials is the fact that they are supposed to look for a meaning, a real purpose in everything in their life. And from a brand side, it's becoming, especially in this country, here in the US, it's virtually impossible to be successful and to survive long term if you don't have a meaningful purpose of who you are, what you're giving back to the community, how you engage naturally, genuinely with your communities, with your colleagues inside, but also with your clients and the whole world around. Do you have a place in this world? Does it make sense? There's always this thought that it's very millennial, but same thing. I think our generation, Philippe, we are not technically millennials looking at the birth date we have on our passports, but I guess you are. I am in a way looking for. I'm not buying the same way. I wouldn't buy for a brand that's basically bad for the world.
Can we take an example about that, about how creativity is impacted?
Well, Van Cleef & Arpels is a very interesting example. where the whole trend about what we just talked about, like the millennial thing, the client taking over, the technological element in the relation, Van Cleef & Arpels has had always until today a very specific approach, which is not change anything about who Van Cleef & Arpels is. And whoever you talk to, wherever you are in the world, whatever the collection you're speaking about, Van Cleef & Arpels is Van Cleef & Arpels the same way it's been since 1906. And it's a house, it's a maison completely creation driven. There's no marketing survey, study, kind of client focus group and all these kind of things happening at Van Cleef & Arpels. Creation first. However, the maison is not completely immune or insensitive of what's happening around, not in the way Van Cleef & Arpels creates, but in the way Van Cleef & Arpels uses the right devices and tools of communication for the right audience. Meaning an Alhambra piece, a high jewelry necklace, the messages, the stories that goes behind are the ones that are defined because they make sense for Van Cleef, whatever the client thinks. But then the way to convey the message, of course, Van Cleef uses, all the good social networks, all the good modern devices, using the right technologies in the boutique, uses virtual reality, uses augmented reality, and uses a lot of technology in the creative process, in the workshops, be it at in the jewelry workshops in Paris or in the watchmaking workshops in Switzerland. So I think Van Cleef is, for me, one of the very good examples, if not the perfect example of staying who you are, whatever the noise in the world, whatever this technology kind of race happening, staying with a very firm and very clear identity, but finding the right ways and the modern ways and the adapted ways for every audience.
About the luxury experience, what's the difference between the offline and the online sides of the experience?
That's again a very good question, Philippe, and it's an ongoing question for us. I mean, traditionally, our world is completely offline, which means traditional, which is brick and mortar, as we say, which is a workshop, a creation process, a boutique, a client, a sales associate, or maison ambassador, and a human interaction between a man or a woman and a man or a woman. And then the online came. And we all got very excited about what we could do online, starting by creating some websites and then very quickly enriching the website by an e-commerce possibility. For all the maisons, and again, I can speak for Van Cleef & Arpels, I can speak for Cartier as well, the point has always been to use what the technology can bring online. A website, an e-commerce website is an e-commerce website, with being as convenient and efficient as possible. Convenience being one of the key points of going online. Convenience from, of course, the client point of view. You are in the comfort of your home. You can order, and overnight or 2 days after you receive the piece. But trying to replicate as much as possible the beauty of the offline or traditional boutique world. Specifically, to keep always the human element in the middle of the experience. That means that at every step of your online experience with vancleefandarpels.com or Cartier.com, you have always, very visible, the possibility to contact someone. And though someone being an ambassador of the house, it's not like a low-cost type of contact center. It's a very important operation for us, where we have highly trained experts that can answer any type of question and lead you to any kind of process. Hopefully, and then of course to put you in contact with the boutique. And then the next stage, and that's what we're working on, to have all the possibilities to have kind of, I was about to say Facebook Live or FaceTime type of interaction, face-to-face through a screen, and to have as much as possible a human interaction, even if it is online.
Is the next step the visit of the maison or the mansion Cartier or Van Cleef & Arpels?
Our goal is to make sure that you have the best experience the way you want to have it. We have an increasing number of clients who just don't want to go in boutiques. They want to stay home. I have this anecdote. One of the first major e-commerce sale we did in Japan. It was one of the poetic complications of Van Cleef & Arpels. So we are talking of watchmaking creation around with a value of around, if I remember well, I think it was around 250,000 euros, one piece. A unique piece of art. And we happened to sell that piece online. Big story. We don't sell every day 250,000 euros or approx piece online every day. Everybody got very animated at the office that we made it sell. And that ended up, in my office. And my first reflex was, I want to call the client and thank him and congratulate him and invite him to deliver myself. I was the CEO of the company at that time in Japan. I wanted to deliver myself the piece to the client as a gesture of an exceptional moment. And we actually contacted the client. And the client politely said, okay, if your CEO wants to deliver himself, I have no problem. But you know what? I don't want to see anyone. I fell in love with the piece itself. I want to wear that watch. I don't need to see anyone from Van Cleef & Arpels or from Richemont. So, okay, let's meet if you want. But so we ended up meeting finally, and we took a good photo, and that was a good moment. But that was definitely not the point for him. So it all depends. We just need to make it happen in the best way possible anyway.
About the new aspects of the luxury experience, why this need of unique customized item? It's very important today.
It's very important today. It has always been very important. I don't see here anything really new. So yes, maybe again that's one of the elements in the experience where the technology can bring some new possibilities. We can customize, and we have one of our maisons, a new one called Baume, where everything is online and you can customize. No piece is set by advance. You customize yourself your own piece.
So creativity is on the customer's side.
Creativity is on the customer side. We frame it. You can't do like everything, but you create your own watch with your colors, with your materials. You choose your strap, you choose your dial. So that's one example. It's kind of an experiment for us. And yes, the technology can allow some customization that we didn't have before. Having said that, customization has been there forever. If I talk of Van Cleef & Arpels, if I talk of Cartier, if I talk of the high jewelry world, a client willing to have a very unique piece and kind of co-designing the piece together with the maison, that has been for forever, again, since 1847 for Cartier or 1906 for Van Cleef & Arpels. Monsieur Cartier or Monsieur Arpels were designing some pieces specifically for clients. That's been at the core of the identity, at the core of the business of those maisons. Customization has been here forever.
For a maison, for a luxury brand, would you say that the brand story is at the core of its creativity?
Yes, of course. All the brands have some, identities and DNAs, and they have their own histories and roots. And it's impossible to build any brand if you don't have those roots. We have this saying that I got from one of my former bosses, that the branches of a tree never go further than the roots of the tree. You need to have those strong roots. And that's the frame. It's about the history first. It's about the founding story first. If I take the examples of Cartier and Van Cleef, you will always have at the core of their DNA family. It was founded by family. Paris and France, jewelry and high jewelry. And then came, some inspirations, and then came some usage of specific stones or specific colors or specific types of design, which is like asymmetry for Van Cleef & Arpels, which is very important. Tutti Frutti type of design for Cartier in the 1920s, which were also very important. So it's crucial to understand where we come from. And then the way to do it, there are not 100 ways to do it. It's go deep into the archives, go deep into all the storybooks. You can see behind in my office that I have like many books. And I would say that probably most of the whatever luxury or brand executive, wherever in the world, have always, many books, because that's part of it. We like to read stories and to go deeper into what makes us who we are.
Part of the brand story is the maker's story, is their relationship to the story. How do you communicate? How do you do within the, I would say, the living history of the brand?
It's a great point. Again, it's an ongoing thinking for us. What is sure is that there's no brand without women and men that make it. I was talking about, the roots of the brand, the roots of the maison. Behind every single creation, every single story, there are some human beings. So how do we talk about that? Well, we love to tell the story of those who actually make creations. We try to be sensitive also on their privacy. We try also not to put, everybody forward. But yes, we have some incredible personal stories that we like to tell. Most of our colleagues have been working for our maisons for decades. There's something about time, which is, the question of time is very important in luxury, where it takes time to create a product usually. It takes time to craft a product. Everything takes time, but that's good time. We don't want to go too quick. It takes time to create some expertise for yourself. We have some watchmakers and jewelers and designers that have been here for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years sometimes. And we love to tell those stories. Our jewelry expert for Van Cleef & Arpels here in New York has joined Van Cleef & Arpels the 1st of June 1976. She's been in the maison for 43 years, recruited by Monsieur Arpels. She's one of the best experts in the world, and we love to tell her story. Her story is fascinating, beyond her expertise, which is also fascinating.
As president and CEO of Richemont North America, what kind of risks do you like to take?
I would say risk is always a complicated world for us, because we want to make sure that what we do is completely sustainable and perennial. And that we don't go just for the sake of testing things on one experiment that can jeopardize the rest of the house. Having said that, our job, especially as leaders, is to challenge status quo always. So I don't know if it is risk-taking, but to reconsider everything we do, every kind of process we have. I hate the word process, but we have some processes we have in the company, and challenge it. That's part of the risk-taking. There's a big component also in the talents we have in the group and in the different houses, to make sure that we don't go always for the same types of talents, that we go for better diversity. There's a part of risk there, because if you start recruiting people that don't look like you, that are not exactly like you, that don't have the same background, you're taking a risk. Obviously, that's what you need to do. We don't want to have clones of, ourselves here. We want to have a full diversity of personalities and backgrounds. But there's always a bit of risk-taking, and I consider that it is one of my roles to push for this.
What inspires you the most for that?
When I see what's happening obviously on the tech industry, the whole startup world, that's obviously a cliche to say that. I like to watch what the hospitality industry is doing. There's so many things happening. And then what's inspiring on the other side, or kind of negatively in a way, is always, you were talking about risk, the risk of not being relevant anymore. I consider it inspiring, because that always puts me, and I guess puts us, on the move. And again, I was talking about challenging the status quo. At all times, we need to be, and I'm talking at brand level, completely relevant to our audience.
I'm gonna leave the room. Please hold the microphone and add whatever you want to the interview.
So Philippe has left the room, and I have the permission to say anything I want. But I'm going to stick to the initial brief, which is to talk about creativity. I think creativity is everywhere. I'm in a world where we always think that creativity just comes from what's visible from the client, from a product side, a boutique side, a brand image side. I think creativity is everywhere in what we're doing. And what's invisible from clients is also a great source of creativity that inspires me every day, because that allows all of us to be always better in what we're doing.
Thank you, Alain Bernard, for sharing your story. It was Sounds Like Portraits, a podcast by Philippe Ungar. Music, Charmeuse de Serpent, composed and conducted by Olivier Glisson. See you soon for the next episode.